Imagine stepping outside on a night so cold that the air hurts your lungs. There is no house, no heater, no sleeping bag, and no guarantee that the fire will survive until morning. The ground is frozen. The wind cuts through every opening in your clothes. If you fall asleep in the wrong place, you may never wake up. Yet thousands of years ago, ancient humans moved into some of the coldest regions on Earth, and they did it with bodies that seem completely unprepared for the job. We have thin skin, little body hair, exposed faces, and fingers that quickly become useless in freezing temperatures. So how did a nearly naked tropical ape survive deadly winters, snowstorms, and entire ice ages? The answer was not one perfect invention. It was a collection of strange, clever, and sometimes desperate tricks that turned animal bodies, smoke, bones, fat, snow, and even other humans into a life support system. The strange part is that cold does not attack like a predator. You cannot scare it away, outrun it, or kill it with a spear. It quietly steals heat from every exposed surface. Wind pushes warm air away from the skin. Wet clothing becomes a freezing trap. The ground pulls heat from a sleeping body all night. Even breathing means warming icy air inside your lungs, then losing that heat with every breath. And the colder a person becomes, the worse their decisions get. Fingers stop working, speech becomes slow. Confusion begins. Someone may feel strangely warm, remove their clothing, and die believing the danger has passed. So survival was not simply about standing near a fire. Ancient humans had to protect themselves from the air, the wind, the ground, moisture, hunger, and their own failing brains at the same time. A single mistake could ruin everything. A torn covering, a wet foot, an empty stomach, or a fire that died too early could turn a normal night into a silent disaster. The cold was invisible, patient, and always looking for the smallest opening. The simple answer seems obvious. Ancient humans survived by finding a cave, wrapping themselves in animal skins, and building a large fire. In our imagination, that solves everything. The cave blocks the wind, the fur works like a blanket, the flames keep the entire group warm until sunrise. But each part of that solution had serious problems. Caves were not always available, and some already belonged to bears, lions, or other animals with very strong opinions about visitors. A loose animal hide protected the chest, but cold air could still enter around the neck, arms, and legs. If the skin became wet, it grew heavy and lost much of its insulating power. Fire was useful, but it demanded constant fuel, attention, and protection from wind or snow. Someone had to stay awake to feed it. Smoke could fill a poorly ventilated shelter. Sparks could burn clothing or bedding. And in open, frozen landscapes, there might be very little wood to burn. So yes, caves, skins, and fire mattered. But none of them worked like a magical shield. To survive real cold, humans needed something much more organized. The real solution worked in layers. First came clothing that trapped air close to the skin. A hide thrown over the shoulders helped, but a hide cut into sleeves, leggings, boots, and a hood worked much better. Bone needles and animal sinew allowed people to pull the pieces tightly around the body, closing the gaps where wind could enter. Fur was often worn facing inward, creating tiny pockets of warm air. Then, they had to separate themselves from the frozen ground. Ancient humans piled grass, moss, branches, hides, and even animal bones beneath their bodies. The goal was simple: never sleep directly on the surface, stealing their heat. Several people could lie close together, with children and weaker members protected near the center. Their shelters also became small heat traps. Instead of building a huge room, they made low structures from wood, hides, stones, or mammoth bones. A smaller space was easier to warm. Entrances faced away from the wind, while walls could be covered with earth or snow. Snow sounds like the worst possible building material, but the air trapped inside it makes it surprisingly good at blocking wind and slowing heat loss. Fire was placed carefully, not simply made as large as possible. Stones around a hearth absorbed heat and released it slowly after the flames weakened. In places with little wood, people could burn dry bones or animal fat. A stone lamp filled with fat and a simple wick produced a small, steady flame without consuming a pile of branches. Food was another form of heating. Fatty meat and marrow packed far more energy than lean food. The body burned that energy to stay warm, so cracking open a bone for marrow was not just a meal, it was fuel for the human furnace. And none of this worked alone. Someone gathered fuel, someone repaired clothing, someone watched the fire, someone carried food and protected children. Survival in the cold was less like one clever trick and more like building an invisible wall, layer by layer, between the human body and everything trying to freeze it. But here is the surprising part. Ancient humans did not conquer the cold by changing their bodies first. They changed the world around their bodies. A mammoth had thick fur. A reindeer had special ways to protect its legs. Humans had exposed faces, fragile fingers, and skin that lost heat quickly. We looked like one of the worst animals to send into an ice age. That weakness pushed humans towards something more powerful than fur. They built a portable climate. Clothing became artificial skin. Shelters became artificial caves. Fire became an artificial sun. Fatty food became stored heat. Even the group became a shared heating system. This meant humans did not need to wait thousands of generations for thicker hair. A useful trick could be discovered in one winter, copied the next morning, and taught to every child. One person noticed that fur worked better facing inward. Another learned that grass under a hide blocked the frozen ground. Someone else discovered that a low entrance kept warm air inside. Their bodies did not change. Their knowledge did. Other animals carried their cold weather solutions in fur, fat, or blood. Humans carried theirs in memory, and memory could travel. When a group entered colder land, they brought invisible equipment with them, techniques, warnings, habits, and stories about mistakes that had already killed someone. The greatest human adaptation to winter was not a thicker body, it was the ability to copy a good idea before the cold found the next opening. Ancient humans did not survive deadly cold because they had one miraculous invention. They survived because every decision protected a little more heat. A fitted sleeve stopped wind from reaching the arm. Dry grass kept frozen ground away from the back. A low shelter trapped warm air. Heated stones warmed the camp after the flames weakened. Fat and marrow gave the body energy to produce heat, and the people around the fire made sure no one faced the night alone. Remove one layer, and the system became weaker. Wet clothing could cancel the protection of fur. Hunger made the body cool faster. A badly placed entrance filled the shelter with wind. A sleeping firekeeper could leave everyone shivering before sunrise. Survival depended on simple actions working together. That is how a nearly hairless animal crossed frozen landscapes. Humans did not become stronger than winter. They became better at noticing where heat escaped, then blocking every exit they could find. Their real weapon was not resistance to cold. It was the ability to build warmth from anything. And maybe that is the strangest part of all. Ancient humans did not wait for the world to become warmer. They learned to carry warmth with them. Stitched fur held summer against the skin. A low shelter kept calm inside a storm. A flame turned darkness into a place where children could sleep, food could cook, and knowledge could survive until morning. Every winter tested this fragile system. Every person who lived became proof that it worked. Then the lesson moved forward, from one hand to another and from one camp to the next. So when you see a human standing in snow, remember how unnatural that scene is. We were not born with the body of an Arctic animal. We arrived wearing other animals, carrying captured fire, and protecting one another from the night. Long before humans built cities, they learned to build a tiny summer wherever they stopped.